All right, everyone. Welcome to the session. And myself, Pankaj, and I'm going to be instructor for this Palo Alto. And today we are going to start the module. That is the module one. And we are going to discuss about the uh, core concept of the Palo Alto firewall. So let me share my screen, and then probably we can discuss on that. So what we have to understand, guys, whenever we're going to be start to learn any kind of the firewalls, right? So there are a lot of things we have to understand, and that thing is like the history of the firewalls and the like product of the firewalls. So definitely, I will discuss those things in separately, but I'll focus basically on the core concept of the Palo Alto firewall today, right? Let's suppose you have a very brand new firewall. Let's start doing in the very scratch. Let's suppose someone is going to give the very brand new firewall to you, and they want to ask
बोलो
to just do the installation and configuration. Hi Pranesh, good morning.
नहीं
Pranesh, can you mute yourself?
मुझे नहीं पता
Like, Pranesh, Mr. Pranesh,
या सॉरी वन सेकंड
please try to mute yourself. Okay.
यस यस
Sometimes
यस
you speak blindly.
यस 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 श्योर
Okay, please mute yourself. So basically, what is going to be happen? So we'll try to understand. If let's suppose you have a very brand new firewall, let me stop this lab. We'll start with a different lab. Let me stop. And you are going to be for a day 0 configurations. Means you don't have any knowledge, right? And you want to start. Pranesh, again, unmuted yourself. Any problem? Pranesh, please mute yourself. Sometime I believe you speak something unacceptable. Please request. It's my request. Please mute yourself. All right. So,
यस आई एम म्यूटेड आई वांट टू ask you that this is the first class, right?
right.
Okay.
Okay. You can put in chat. You can raise your hand, Pranesh. There's no problem. Okay.
Sure.
All right. So, let's suppose we have to start doing any configuration of the firewall. So, what is the step-by-step process we have to follow to do this configuration? That definitely we have to understand. And before doing the any configuration, how we can understand where I need to connect my cable to take a console access to the firewall, where I can connect the cable to get the GUI access to the firewall. So that also we have to understand. Now, there is two scenario we have to understand. Let's suppose your firewall is going to be hardware-based firewall, means you have in the physical firewall you just purchased from the Palo Alto, that is known as the hardware firewall, right? Another firewall might be you're going to get as a virtual firewall. This is going to be VM-based firewall. So what is the way to access this VM firewall and the physical firewall? First, we have to understand why we need the physical firewall and why we need the virtual firewall. That is also very important. So physical firewall is a firewall where OEM, that is the manufacturer of the firewall vendor, that is a Palo Alto FortiGate checkpoint, they all are going to manufacture the hardware box. And that hardware is going to come with the multiple things. Means the hardware, when we're going to build the hardware, that hardware is going to be basically combine of the CPUs. They're going to combine with the RAM, right? And then also SSD. And then they have the ASICs. And based on that, on top of that, they are going to put inside of this particular hardware, and that is known as the OS of the box, and that is known as the PAN OS. So they are going to load a PAN OS like 10.0 version, 11.0 version, like that. So based on that, they are going to load the PAN OS, and based on that PAN OS, your entire firewall is going to operate. That is going to be your hardware firewall. Okay. And this hardware firewall basically going to be installed. Where it is going to be installed? This is going to be installed in your any branch location. Let's suppose you have any branch location, Delhi, Mumbai, anywhere it could be. Could be any data center location, Could be any colo locations. Colo is basically you're renting your hardware in somewhere in the third party infrastructure. It's not your infrastructure, but you're taking the space to locate your hardware, install your hardware, make the connectivity with the ISP and other devices. And also at the same time, if you have any private cloud is basically kind of the your data centers, but you're not owning that data center. It's managed by third party. In that locations, you can use the hardware firewall. There's no problem. You can use this hardware firewall in that location. And these firewalls are exactly going to do all feature of the NGFW. Means if I talking about the NGFW features, so they can do inspection based on the layer 2, they can do inspection layer 3, layer 4, layer 7, right? You can do the URL, you can do the content, that is a payload data, which can actual data. They can do the SSL inspection, TLS, SSL inspections. They can do some additional, like you can do inspection based on the user ID, especially Palo Alto. Another firewall also support user ID based integration. You can do that. You can do that machine based integration, etc. So we have a lot of things, right? We have the MAC address, IP address, layer 4, that is the port protocol number, application layer 7, URL, web, IPS, IDS, SSL, TLS, content means any virus, any malware, any DOS, everything can be checked. Means in your packet, whatever the information you have, that all can be possible. You can check from the your NGFW firewall, and it can be via the hardware firewall, right? So I will show you how hardware firewall is going to look like. But at the same time, let's suppose your organization is looking to deploy the virtual firewall. So where this virtual firewall is going to deploy? So this virtual firewall is going to deploy in the either of the location. Even you can deploy in the branch location, it's possible. You want to deploy in DC location, it's also possible. Colo location, it's also possible, right? You can do that. Private cloud also, it's possible. At the same time, you have the another option, public cloud. What is the public cloud? Public cloud where it's impossible to host your hardwares. It's impossible to host your hardware. That's why I didn't mention about the hardware firewall. Like in Azure, in AWS, in GCP, you cannot send them hardware and ask them to install in their data center. No. Cloud is what is cloud? Cloud is just a big data center. And in that big data center, you can host your services. You rent the space, and based on the rent, you can make your networking, you make your storage, you can make your virtual machines, you can deploy your firewalls, routers, switches, anything you can do that. But you cannot host your hardware. You have to leverage the cloud provider hardware. But in this location, branch is like physical location. If you want to host your hardware, you can do that because it's not managed by the cloud providers. DC also, Colo also, private cloud also going to give that flexibility. You can host your hardware and all. So virtual firewalls, again, whenever you're going to deploy the virtual firewalls, guys, very important. These virtual firewalls, provider is going to give just one thing, that is a PAN OS. Means Palo Alto is going to give the PAN OS. PAN OS is the Palo Alto operating system, right? PAN OS is basically like Cisco iOS. We have 40 OS. We have Meraki OS. We have similar Versa OS. We have similar router, that is the operating system like software. So they will give the software might be the OVA file or might be the QCOW file. This could be any version, right? But this thing, most time you're going to get the OVA file. This OVA file need to deploy in any servers, right? Again, and this OVA file, when you're deploying any server, this is going to become the virtual firewall, VM firewall. But to run this OVA file, again, you require these all resources. Again, you require the CPUs. Again, you require the RAM. Again, you require the SSD. And again, your hardware ASICs is going to in the picture to run, make this full circuits by combining the CPU, RAM, SSD, and ASICs and everything. So that's why, guys, if you want to run the PAN OS, you have to buy the server in this location, branch location, colo locations, uh, if your data center, you have must be your own data centers, and in data center branch location, you must have a servers. Under the servers, you can install this OVA file, and after installing this OVA file, probably you can activate that OVA, and then it is going to serve. Even for colo locations, you have to host your servers. Private location also you can host your server. But in public cloud, you have to purchase the rent. I mean, you purchase the space, and that space you just go and host that particular your OVA file, and then it is going to leverage your hardware property like CPU. It's going to might require 2 GB CPU. It's going to require the 6 GB RAM. Sorry, it's going to might be the 5.5 GB RAM or 6 GB RAM. SSD might be it's going to be 32 GB or 60 GB RAM. Sorry, SSD. And S6 is basically going to make the internal circuit. So you can deploy that. But this firewall also going to give the exactly same functionality. Means whatever the functionality I'm going to get from here, you are going to get 200%. I'm very confident on that. So I'm writing a 200%, nothing more than 100%. But just for the giving my intention to be very clear to audience, means exactly whatever this feature we can achieve in this physical firewall, the same feature you are going to achieve by the virtual firewall. There's no difference. So that's why everything now moving in the cloud. Cloud is exactly eliminating the hardware cost. Means you have to pay, let's suppose, 10,000 US dollar for this hardware firewall. Might be your OS is going to just cost 2,000 US dollar, giving the example, and your server rent is going to cost might be 1,000 US dollar, might be the per year, or might be the, let's suppose, 3,000 per year, giving the example. I need to check exact number, but giving the example, 3,000 US dollar. So still you're going to save how much USD? And that's the game changer. Means every company is trying to save the money. And for that also, that's why they're moving in the cloud and doing the lot of kind of the integrations. So you don't have to worry. We are going to leverage the physical firewall and virtual firewall both. Any questions anyone have? Pranesh, Tisha, Vinay, and Mr. Das, Ravi. Any questions, guys? Anyone have? We are good. Okay, very good, guys. Give me 1 second. All right. So in our infrastructures, what is going to be happen? We are going to deploy the physical firewalls and also in the hardware firewall. So definitely I will show someday in the physical firewall in the camera how it is going to deploy. But we have to understand if you want to deploy the physical firewall, what is the key concept and how it is going to deploy, how basically it's going to look like. Let's suppose you have to do the day 0 configuration. Day 0 configuration means you have the very brand new firewall and you want to start doing the very first command, very first configuration on the firewall, then how it is going to be like look like. Another way, if I want to deploy the virtual firewall, then how it is going to be look like in the virtual firewall. So these firewalls in the lab, whatever I'm doing right now, whatever the firewall I'm doing in the lab, these firewalls are basically going to act as a virtual firewall. Why it's a virtual firewall? Because they deploy in the our private cloud infrastructure. Means as I mentioned, the public cloud, private cloud. So private cloud is basically we have the our in-house servers. The Gwinnett have their in-house servers, and that in-house servers we have the multiple VMs, and multiple VMs are hosting the multiple kind of the pods to install the firewalls. Inside of that VM, we are hosting that particular firewall, and they are leveraging the resources from that particular VM. Means for the server having the very high capacity, might be the server going to be get 512 GB RAM. Okay, this server plus they have 10 terabyte SSD. Okay, plus they are going to get let's suppose 96 V CPU, and definitely they have the circuit that is ASIC is internally going to be there. So we have this kind of the configurations. So you can think about if I have that much configuration, so how many virtual machine I can deploy? Firewall, just one firewall, if I talk about that, If I go with the one firewall, they require the V CPU is a 2V CPU. They require just 5.5 GB RAM. They require just for the 32 GB SSD. So you can think, so I have that much resource and one firewall is going to require that much only. So you can just divide how many I can deploy the firewall inside of the servers. So that's why you guys can accessing the labs by sitting in anywhere, because physical firewall, there are thousands of students doing the lab at the same time across the globe at the GUNET platform. And if we are going to arrange that much hardware infrastructure, that's going to very difficult to manage and build the rack and give that all kind of the simulation environment. There is infrastructure for dedicated for the offline centers and all, testing, R&D, internship. But for the onlines, we build that infrastructure data center where it's a plug and play. Anyone can start anytime devices, do the lab practice, do any kind of testing and deploy the firewalls, routers, which is anything you can deploy that. So based on that, we deploy this firewall. So let me turn on this firewall for our understanding. So this is going to be 9.0 firewall and another firewall also. This OS version I'm talking about 10.0. So I'll start with very basics and very stable version 9.0. I'll start this firewall. So let me started. This is my virtual firewall. Now, if I talk about the physical firewall, so how my physical firewall is going to be look like? How my physical firewall is going to be look like? So in Palo Alto, we have the multiple version of firewall. It's not single version of firewall, means physical firewall. So you can see very small firewall you're going to find as a 220 firewall. This is the one firewall, 220 firewall, and they have also 220R firewall. Very popular firewall now after 220, you're going to get 450 firewall. 450 firewall. So if you go and search out, it's very popular firewall for the small and mid range of the customers. So there are 400 series of firewall, and you're going to find that 450 series of firewall. They have different model, so you can just pursue that also. So this firewall also available. Similarly, we have the another firewall 820, the same firewall I'm showing in front of you. So I will discuss a specification of the firewall, which firewall is used for the which locations, and what kind of the supportability they have, what kind of the feature they have, and what kind of the bandwidth they provide in terms of the overall packet processing, threat preventions, and at the same time, connections type, how many they are going to IPsec VPN bandwidth, how much there, how many connections they can provide, how many new connection they can set up per session, and how many IPsec tunnel they can build. So we'll discuss these all things guys also later on. But you can see we have the multiple models like 220, 450, 800 switch firewall, 3000. That has been decommissioned, 3000 firewall. 5280 firewall also. That's a very big firewall. And then we have the biggest firewall, 7000 series of firewall. That is going to be chassis based firewall, which is going to deploy in the data centers. So if your company just purchase or procure one of the firewall out of these any firewall, how the step-by-step process is going to happen for the installation. So to begin the installation and configuration of the firewall, you must have some sort of the knowledge. Means there are going to be multiple ports. You guys can see here. You can see there's a multiple ports, and you must know each and every port functionality. Why I'm using these ports, why I'm using these ports, why I'm using these ports, and why I'm using these ports, and also these ports, these ports. What is the role of the LED? And where I can connect the power supply, what is this fan. So if you don't have this kind of knowledge, probably you're going to be always a struggle. Okay. So let me start doing discussion. Let's suppose we pursue this very brand new firewall. So I need to be familiar what are the ports and why these ports are very important for me. So you can see this is the very front panel of the firewall, right? Front panel of the firewall, and there is a back panel of the firewall. In this back panels, I'm unable to show you, but you are going to get the power supply. There is going to be single power supply, some firewall coming a dual power supply. Why single power supply and why dual power supply? Because if you have the single power supply, one PS1, then what is going to happen? If this power supply is going to fail for some reason, this is a power supply unit is going to fail, cable is going to faulty, this particular port is going to faulty, or might be the power source is going to be faulty where power is coming, then entire site is going to be down. So to make this walkable 24/7, you have to use always recommended two power supply, and that have the different source of the power supply unit. So if it is going to fail, this is going to fail, cable is going to fault, still my firewall have the backup power supply. It will take only that much power which is needed. It's not going to take like double power. No, it's not like that. So whatever they have the specification of the power supply, they will take those power supply, and based on those power supply, they are going to take in some actions. It to run the firewall. So the power supply is critical, and you always have to connect the power cable. And let me show you how the power supply is going to look like. 20 power supply ports. So I'm talking from the very scratch, guys. So you don't be confused, right? What I'm all talking. See, so your back panel is going to look like this one. So you see, this is coming as a single power supply, but you can ask with the Palo Alto, they can install the dual power supply also if you need it. Some firewall come with a single power supply, some with a dual power supply. So, so you can just go and might be it's not there, but you're going to find some firewalls with a dual power supply as well. So I need to search, but yes, definitely you're going to find that dual power supply. So the end goal is, if I'm going to start with a single power supply, if my power supply is going to fail, my firewall is going to be dead. Dual supply, it's going to give the redundancy. Now, this is the back plan. What is the front panel, guys? So front panel, if you go and see that, very important, this is the my branding, Palo Alto. So this particular firewall belong to the Palo Alto, and this is the model of the Palo Alto firewall. So we know that this firewall belong to the Palo Alto, and this model of the firewall is a 820. Similarly, any firewall you have, they must have this kind of the branding and their model number as well. So you can easily identify which vendor this firewall belong and which model this firewall is. After that, you can see, let me little bit zoom. I'll go a little bit here. Okay. You can see here. Sorry. Give me a second, guys. Okay. You guys can see here, there is a fan. These fans are going to be used to just make sure your firewall is going to maintain the required coolings. So cooling is very important. If there is no cooling, might be your firewall is going to be hung state. So always you have to give the, like, make sure you have the proper cooling supply. It's not going to be heated. If it is going to heated, you're going to get the temperature alerts here. So there are the multiple LED also. You can see power LED, fans LED, alarm LED, status LED, HA LED, and temperature LED. Why these LEDs are very important? They are going to come into three signals. It could be the red, it could be amber, and it could be the green. So if it's green, your firewall is 100% okay. If it is green. If it is amber, there is some warning. Means you have to take some action. There is some warning, you have to take some actions. If red, it's the criticals. System is down, might be power supply is dead, HA is failed, temperature is very high. There is a critical alarm inside of the due to any hardware issues. Your fans are not working. So this could be the use for the different purpose to just diagnose how my firewall is going to behave and what is the issue inside of the firewalls. Okay, this is the LED, and this is very important, guys. You should know about it. Now, you can see we have the further ports, that is a console port. This is the one console port and this is the another console port. Why this console port is important, guys? Do you guys know the role of the console port? Anyone use the console port?
So we can access the Palo Alto device from the laptop
So it's going to be
directly by
CLI
using that
access or GUI
console.
access?
So CLI access.
Okay. Okay, that's correct. Okay, Pravendra, you can mute. Okay, so guys, if you want to take the access of the firewall, this firewall can be accessed by two methods. This firewall can be accessed via the CLI plus GUI. Both method you can use that. So console is going to give the one of the method you can use this. I think B type cable, not C type. It's a very small one. I need to check that. So B or C type cable is going to connect it. By using that, also you can take the CLI access, and console cable is also. So you have to purchase one of the console cable. Console cable is going to be like this one. One side your RJ45, one is going to be your converter, and another is going to be your USB. And this USB is going to be connected with your laptop. So once your RJ45 cable is going to connect it, this is the RJ45 to USB converter, right? You can just see the converter, and this is known as the basically console cable. You can purchase this console cable from the market. Based on that console cable, you connected this into your laptop or PC. This PC must be having some software like the Putty, Secure CRT, and Putty like that. And once you make the serial connections, it is going to prompt as your CLX of the firewall. So you're going to get a CLX of the firewall, and you want to do any troubleshooting, any configuration, you can do that. Clear? So console, you can use this one, you can use this one, and it's going to give the CLIX of the firewall. And you can start doing the day 0 configuration. You want to assign any configuration, you can do that. I will show you how it is going to happen. But at the same time, guys, if you want to do the GUI access of the firewall, so this console is never going to give the GUI access. So there is a dedicated port, which port is known as the management port. Okay, on the firewall. Every time when I'm going to talk about the management port, this port is going to be responsible to give the HTTPS based connection. Means if you go in the browser, you're typing the HTTPS and give the IP of this management interface on your laptop, this is going to prompt as a GUI access. Means you can just go and log in. So whenever you're going to purchase any new firewall, any brand new firewall, this management interface is going to be always hard-coded IP address. So 192.168.1.1. It is going to be always hard-coded. You can change it, but initially when you're going to be shipped from the factory or might be the any stockyard, this firewall is going to be carry as a 192.168.1.1. This is your IP address. And based on that IP address, you can connect your PC, which is going to be there in the same via using the LAN cable. So this is going to like this one. You connect your RJ45 cable, that is known as the LAN cable. LAN cable is going to connect you to your PC. Okay, here is your RJ45. This side we have the 192.168.1.1. Here you can define 192.168.1.2/24. Once you make, you're able to ping from there to there. And just you have to go in the browser and type HTTPS colon and put the IP address. And then after this firewall is going to be login on your computer. So you can take the GUI access. So anytime if you want to take the GUI access, you always have to take from this IP address. That is a best case to access the firewall. Even you don't want to take from this, you want to take some different IP address, we can do that. But primarily from the day 0 configuration, if you want to take the GUI access, this is a process you can take that and you can just do the configuration. Later we can allow other subnet, other interfaces also can give the GUI access. This is the console. Any questions, guys? Anyone have till now? Till here? Okay, so I'm considering everyone is okay till here. Now, moving further, guys, we have the USB port as well. Why we need USB port? USB port is basically a port. If you want to extract the file from the firewall, you can do that. You want to put some file like iOS, means PanOS version. You want to put the license. You want to put any kind of the other logs and all. You can do that USB file. So this is going to be there. I just to get the file from the firewall and put file from the firewall. Put file to the firewall. That both option is going to be available by the using the USB port, guys. So this is the USB port which is going to be there. All right. So USB port is going to be there, console port is going to be there, this is LED, this is the model, and this is the management firewall. Now let's talk about the HA. We'll discuss this in very detail, don't worry. So what is the role of the HA? If I'm talking about what is the role of the HA, so HA is basically going to use for the high availability. What is the high availability? Just think about, in my network, I have a single firewall. Just think about, in my network, I have a single firewall. Let's have a look on this particular topology. We'll discuss this in very detail, definitely. But just consider, in my firewall, I have a single firewall. There is no firewall available. This firewall is not available in the network. So my traffic will start going in this way to internet. If this firewall is going to down, my complete LAN infrastructure is going to be down. If this WAN is going to be down, I'm going to lose that my entire connections to the internet. If this LAN is means any interface is going down, any firewall is going down, any cloud having an issue from this path, I completely going to lose the connectivity. Means my internet access, my intranet access, that all will be the gone. But if I have the backup of the firewall, means if this is going to be some issue, I have the secondary part to go on the internet. So that's why HA come in a picture. HA is basically high availability. High availability is going to give the like backup path. Let's suppose you have a single car and that is going to break down. You cannot go in the office. You have to must be book the some taxi. You have to borrow some friend car and all. But you have the dual car. If one car is going to break down for some reason, you can use the immediately another car and you can go to office or friend or family where you want to go. That similarly, if in case of you have the backup path, that backup path is going to be used to just make sure you have the uh, basically all kind of the uh, all kind of the backup route to go on the any destination. So that's why if I go here, let me go and check that in my this location. If I go here, these HA ports are going to give the flexibility to bind two firewall together. So there is a one HA one link. We'll discuss. This link is the control link. I will discuss very detailed in later. Just park this. Just think what is a control link. This is the basically monitoring the heartbeats, syncing some kind of the routing information, control information, and there is a data link. That data link is basically HA2 link. So these two link must be connected to make the HA of two firewalls. Means they are going to logically make two firewall in the single domain, and this can be two deployment. HA can be two mode, and we'll discuss both mode. One is going to be active, passive. I will deploy this mode as well. Another is going to be your active, active. This both modes are going to be deployed, and based on this both mode deployment, you can achieve a lot of kind of scenario. So this is the HA port, and we'll do the lab later on this. Now, these ports, why we use these ports? Why we use these ports? So these ports are basically, guys, if you want to connect the WAN connectivity, like you want to make the internet connectivity, you can use either of the port. If you're using the fiber connectivity, you can use this ports. It's going to give the fiber by SFP. Copper, you can use this ports. So this is for the WAN. So this is for the copper. It's RJ45. This is for the fiber. Similarly, for the LAN, if you have the switch here and you want to connect, you can, if you have the copper connectivity, low speed, you can use this RJ45 cable is going to be there with the copper, right? And if you want to do high speed, 1 Gbps, more than 1 Gbps, like 10 Gbps, 25 Gbps, you can use the fiber here, and this fiber is going to be give that fiber connectivity. So these are the ports we're going to use. So basically, you can use for the LAN and WAN connectivity. And sometime even you want to use for the management also, it is going to also possible, but we'll see how it is possible. I hope this is clear to everyone. Tisha, Pranesh, Binay, Ravi, Das, any questions, guys, till here?
No, sir.
Okay. Tisha, Pranesh, Binay, what about you guys? All good till here?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Let me know, guys, if you have any question. Now, so right now I'm going to deploy the one of the firewall. Thank you, Tisha, for thumbs up. Right now I'm going to deploy the one of the firewall. That is going to be my virtual firewall, and I'm very new in the firewall. I don't know how I'm going to operate, what first command I'm going to do that. So basically, what I can do that, I can simply go, and this is my lab topology, and there's a day 0. See, there's a day 0. Actually, we are at technically day 0. So if I have the firewall, so this is the virtual firewall. And as I mentioned that, you can see there is a management port also. So what is the IP should be management interface? Anyone know that? Default IP address. If I have the physical firewall, what is the default IP of the management interface? It's going to be 192 guys, 168, 1.1. Always remember. This is mentioned 10.1, ignore it. But this is going to be 1.1 always management interface IP address. So you always have to configure 1.1. Means it is going to be there, but it is for the virtual firewall, sorry, physical firewall. If you have the physical firewall, then you're going to get this management IP. If you have any virtual firewall you have, sometime you're going to get for the latest code, this IP is going to be there, but in old codes, probably it is going to be blank. So you have to configure management IP address by taking the console of the firewall. So how I can take the console? It's a virtual, so virtual console is also available. Just double click, your console is going to be open. This is a virtual console, guys. This firewall, your virtual console. If this is a physical firewall, you're going to get the console port. But we are in the virtual, so there is no physical cable can be connected. So to take a virtual console, you just have to double click the firewall. You're going to take the virtual console. Now, after clicking this, if I go in the Palo Alto firewall, give me 1 second, guys. So basically, what is going to be happen whenever going to start the firewall, your default username of the password of the firewall. What is your default? You can guys write it. If you're starting the very new firewall, the default username is going to be admin and
Admin
pass.
ad.
Yes, admin and admin. Your password is also going to be admin. So you have to put your username admin, and then it will ask. So let me put it here. Username you can like put admin. There is no port default, right? Password you can put admin. That is also default. But password you must change. Password must be changed after first login. Okay, this is what we have to say. Any password you have to give. Let's suppose my name is Pankaj. So I can give the Pankaj at the rate 65. You guys can also use the password similar. Sometimes it's not take the very normal password, very basic password. So whatever your name, try to use like your name is Binam. So Binam at the rate I can use the 78. Might be the Tisha at the rate I can use the might be the 345 like that. So it is going to be this kind of password you have to put. So here what I can do that I can go here and try to put first username as admin and the password is admin. Now it will ask to change your password and it will ask to enter your old password. So what is my old password? I can just go here and put the old password as a here. Let me put it here. Admin. It might be not visible, but you have to put the password. Now it is going to ask the new password. So again, I put my new password as a mentioned Pankaj has 65 like that anything. So let me put it here. So my password has been changed. Okay, so now I am in the mode of the firewall. What we call this mode? Anyone know that? Have you guys run the Cisco? What is the mode? Anyone can put in chat? It's a privilege mode, configuration mode, user mode. What do we call it basically?
This is not a config mode.
It's a basically
It's
user
just
mode, right?
show
Yes,
user mode.
user mode. We can just give the show commands, right? So if I want to run the show command, there is a lot of show command. I cannot put the question mark. in here in this, I need to take a CLI, then question mark is going to show all command in the one table. But here you can see I cannot make up and down because this is not putty, this is the your virtual console. So I need to SSH via the putty software, then I can just use the all up and down to check my show command. But yes, you can find all show command. You just put show, and you can see it's starting with the ARP, CLI, config, counter, DHCP, DNS. A lot of things is there, and you can just use that for the your configuration, guys. So I need to confirm what is my management interface IP address. Because I mentioned that for Day-0 deployment, even if you go for the official initial configuration of Palo Alto Firewall, if you go there and try to find this link, I'll set up, I'm putting this link in the chat. You guys can also refer it. Take this as your reference. Okay. I put it in chat. You can just go through that. So whenever you're going to do that, so your dedicated firewall management IP address is going to be this one, and username, password, admin. I explained that. And then you have to connect your RJ45 on that particular port, and then you have to take the GUI access by doing that all configuration. So you guys can read it. I will just show you the my own way. I'm not going to the documentation part. You can read it for your reference. So now I'm here, and I need to check what is my really this IP is available on my management interface or not. This IP, as I mentioned that if you're a physical firewall, this must be going to be there. Mention that, but virtual firewall you might be going to find in the new firewalls, but old VMs you're not going to find that. So how I can verify my management interface have the IP or not? So there is two command. You can run first command, show interface management. This command is going to show you what is the configuration of management interface. Press enter, and you can see, unfortunately, this is all unknown. We don't have any IP address to management interface. This is the one method you can check we have the management interface on my Palo Alto firewall or not. There is nothing. So this 9.0 version in the virtual firewall, we don't have the management interface. Okay, so one problem means I cannot take the GUI access of the firewall. I have the CLI, but if there's no management address, I cannot take the GUI access. Another command, guys, how we can check that? Another command we have to use that. Sorry. Okay. Another command we have, show system info. This command also going to show you the your management interface detail. So let me show you. See, if I just show system info, you can see host name, that system host name is the Palo Alto host name, IP address, netmarks, and this parameter. See, IP address is blank, nothing. Netmask is blank, nothing. Gateway is blank. And most important, note this IP assignment method is DHCP. So technically, we not have the IP address on the firewall. So how I can assign the IP address on the firewall? What is the first step I can do to assign the IP address on the firewall? So to assign the IP address on the firewall, we have to go here and go in the configuration mode. This is the configuration mode. So very first command you have to run as a configure. Now you are the configuration mode. And to do any configuration, you have to use the command set device config system IP. System IP is basically your management IP. System IP means you are putting the management interface IP address. You're just putting the system IP address. And in this system IP address, you have to put the IP address. What I can put the IP address? I can use 192.1.168.1.1, or even I can use the 192.168.10.1. It's my choice, but in our network, we are using this 10.1, so we are good with that. Even if you want to use 1.1, so here also you have to use 1.2. So let me put it here, 192.168.10.1. And I need to put the net mask. What is net mask? 255, 255, 255.0. Default gateway not needed as of now because we are in the complete same broadcast domain. So we don't require default gateway, so we can ignore. Even you can put the default gateway as a this IP or self IP, it's going to fine. but I don't want to put that, so we can leave it. Now my config is done. Once my config is done, does it by default apply in the configuration of the the firewall configuration? The answer is no. Any config you're doing in the Palo Alto Firewall, take note, guys. Any config you're doing at Palo Alto Firewall, it will never apply on running config. It will never, until you made commit. So commit is very important. If you're not going to make a commit is basically you forcing your configuration to apply on your running configuration. So if you're not going to make a commit, your config is not going to apply. So always, even you're doing the GUI, sorry, CLI right now we are, or might the GUI. If you're making any changes, you must have to do the commit to reflect the configuration into production. Make sense, everyone? Note this point. So I did this configuration, but it is not going to apply. So I need to commit this. Commit and press enter. Then you have to wait. This configuration, which is not committed, is known as a candidate configuration. Candidate configuration is unsaved configuration. Anytime if your device is going to reboot, somebody is going to revert, it is going to possible. But one is going to be commit, it's going to permanently apply to your device. And once you delete and commit, then only it is going to be removed. You can see the commit has been done. So now we supposed to get this. Now we're supposed to get the system IP on the my management interface. But see, here's the magic. Show system info. See, still I don't have the IP address. I done the commit, but IP address is still unknown. Netmask is still unknown. Assignment, but not in that. This is a DSCP. So I don't have the IP address. I have done. So might be confusing, sir. You have done something wrong. No, I didn't done anything wrong. I apply the configuration, but it's not applying on the interface. That is a different region. I will explain. Now going in the next step, guys. And the next step, if I go run cover, so interface management. And here also you're going to find these are the unknown. See, default gateway, net mask, everything is unknown. Clear? So basically, long story short, if you are going to applying any kind of the IP address on management interface, and if the management interface assignment method configures a DSCP, very important, guys, note it. See, this command, this interface is trying to get IP from DSCP and you configuring via the static. So it will never reflect your IP address on the management interface because your system by default configured to get IP address from DSCP, but DSCP server not available in your network. So it will never going to accept the IP address. So if it is not going to accept the IP address, then how you're going to be interact with that particular firewall? So you have to change this mode from DSCP to static, then your static IP is going to be reflect on the firewall. So to change that mode, you have to go here and go here device, configuration. Say device config, system type static, and commit again. Now you're making to take IP address as a static. This command is saying that you're changing the mode to assign the IP address from DSCP to static and then commit it. And after commit, you'll see the magic will going to happen. And this firewall must have the IP address. Okay, now you can see we're done, and you go and check it, show system info, and here is the magic. See, now we have the IP address, we have the subnet mask, and the assignment method is a static. So this has been changed and the IP is automatically applied. Now you can go for my second step and run the command show interface management. You can see in the management also, sorry guys, In management also you can find it. We have the IV subnet mask, and this is done. So once we're done, we are good with the configuration of my Palo Alto Firewall management interface. This is the very first configuration of Palo Alto Firewall. Might be this session is going to look very long because I discuss almost 30-35 minute theory than practical, but it's a very important, guys. Most people are always confused about the basic things. And if you're not good in the basics, your advance is also going to be suffer. So I'll just click on the window PC now again. And in this window PC, I'll put the password. What is the password of window PC? Any window PC you're using here in the lab, the password is going to be 123. Please note it, 123. So I'm going in the window PC and my password is 123. Click OK. Just take a note. Now I'll go and assign the IP address, same series of the IP address. The 10.1, so I'll assign the 10.2. So I'll go here, network, properties, and adapter settings. Go in the property again. And here is a 10.1. You can put the gateway or you can just ignore the gateway. So give the IP address, click OK, OK, and done. Now you go here and go and open the CMD. CMD, IP, config. And if in the IP config, if you try to just go and ping the firewall 192.168.10.1, you see able to ping that. Once you're able to ping that, you are going to just, open the browser. And after opening the browser, put the IP address. And here is the press enter. And you'll see your firewall GUI is going to be prompted in front of you. So first you make sure you have the ping, and then after ping, you just have to do this HTTPS connections. It will open, guys. Wait for a while. Sometimes it's give funny response. Sorry, HTTPS I need to put. I put the HTTP in previous connection. That was the reason. It should be HTTPS, not HTTP. See, it's establishing the secure connection now. So you have to use the HTTPS. By default, HTTP is not allowed. That's why it's giving the funny output. So you have to put, now you see there is a error. What is the error? This is the self-sign certificate error. So you can ignore, this is not an issue. It's just a firewall self-sign certificate because you are building the HTTP connections. So this machine required the certificate of this particular firewall, and this machine doesn't have the certificate. That's why it's going to be given error. So we'll fix this issue later on, but it's not an issue. It's not going to create any issue. Just click on the advanced, proceed with the unsafe. And after that, you just log in it here. Log in it. Okay. Now you can see this is the dashboard of the firewall. So very first time you're going to log in, you can see the dashboard of the firewall, and here you can see very important. If you go in a dashboard, very first thing a dashboard. In the dashboard, you're going in the logged in admins. So logged in admins are basically two. The admin accounts are admin, but they log in via the web and CLI. Web is basically this is the web connections. And CLI is basically we taken the CLI of the your firewall via the HTML console, and you can see this ideal and all. So this is just for the my GUI access. I'll explain this dashboard entirely in the next section, but you have this access. Now, if I want to do the SSH of the firewall. Can I do that? This is the console. This window is console. But if I want to take SSH of the firewall, so by default, your management interface have three services enabled. Please take a note. By default, three services. You can do the HTTPS, which we did right now. You can do the SSH and you can do the ping. Three services by default enabled on the management. You cannot do the telnet. You cannot do the HTTP and other services. By default, only three services you can do that. So ping, I showed you. I'm able to ping. So if I go here, let me open this again, this browser. If I go this PC again, if I'm going in this particular PC and if I'm trying to ping, so this ping is working. So this is my ping services enabled. This is HTTPS services enabled. And SSH. How can check the SSH? You go in the putty and try to take the SSH of the firewall 192.168.10.1 and take the SSH. Let me put a little bit font size bigger and I can open the connection. See, so it will prompt the username and password. I'll put the username and I'll put the password as well. So now I'm the SSH connection of the firewall, but I cannot take the telnet. Let me show you. If I go again to try in the putty, this services is not enabled. If I go to telnet and put in the IP address 192.168.10.1, see, if I try to open, telnet is going to fail because this is not enabled. So how we can verify these three services are enabled on the management interface. So if I go here, this is not going to be open. And if I go here, device, in interface, you are not going to find. If you go in the network interface, you're not going to find the management interface here. No. Management interface is going to be available on device. Under device, you have to go on the interface. Here is interface, not this network interface. And here you're going to find the management interface. And you can see these three services by default enabled on the management interface: ping, HTTPS, and SSH. So that's why I'm able to ping HTTPS and SSH. But if I want to even do the telnet, so what I have to do that, I need to go here and enable the telnet as well. If I enable telnet, I'll give the default gateway like my self IP address. It's mandatory. So no problem, I can give that. And telnet is also enabled. HTTP is also can enable. So by default, only two services enabled, but I want to enable the multiple services. Same. Now HTTP and telnet is enabled. Now if you commit it again, and you'll see that this is going to be commit, and this is a GUI again, do the commit. I'm changing that. I'm making change by GUI, not CLI. CLI is very difficult to remember the command. GUI just go in the tab, do the configuration and do some sort of the changes, whatever you want to do that. So you can see I'm making the changes and then it's commit. Now commit has been done. And if you go again and try to take the new session, and I will try to take let me make a little bit bigger font size. And if I try to take the session as a telnet, so I'll go here, put 192.168.10.1, open. See here. So now I have the telnet as well, admin and admin. Now if you go in the firewall, go in the dashboard. See, we have the CLI 3 connections. Like we have this two console. One is the telnet as such is going to be considered also. So console is also kind of telnet is considering. SS is going to from the which IP I'm taking that. Similarly, if I go and try to access the HTTP based connections, earlier it was not login, but if I try to now access with the HTTP based login also, it is also possible. I can log in it. See, I'm getting the front of the file. This is the HTTP, not secure connection. This is HTTPS connection. See, say when I'm going to log in, I can log in. Earlier it was not able to log in, but why it is able to log in? Because we enable the connection. So ignore it, it's expired. So because another browser is open, so probably I need to close it and I need to log in, but we have the prompt. So this is how you can do the management configuration. Now it's the Q&A time, guys. Any questions, please ask me. What you understand, what you not understand, any questions, any confusions, any feedback, any suggestions, most welcomes, because we are done with today. This is 1 hour class, so sometime we'll extend it, but I believe we are good as of now. Pranesh, Ravi, Das, Tisa is fine. Binay, any questions, guys? Okay, good. Thank you. All right. So if there are questions, we'll meet again Monday. Okay, we'll continue from here, and I'll start doing more deployment. But I believe you guys are good with the. Yes, Binay, please go ahead.
Sir, going forward in this Palo Alto classes, are we also going to use the Panorama to manage
Yes.
these firewalls?
Yes.
Okay.
So Panorama is going to be there, right? And I will explain some use cases how Panorama is going to onboard the firewalls. And might be there is the Panorama opens. Let me see. Okay. See, this is a VM of the Palo Alto firewall. Okay, Panorama is not login, but yes, we are going to discuss on that. Okay, don't worry, Vinay. All right.
And we have these labs available 24/7.
Yes, labs are going to be available 24/7. So you guys are going to get lab for 2 months, right? Uh, Along with this course. And you can access this lab from anywhere. And this is going to be 24/7, guys. This is going to be 21. So anytime you can do this lab. It's unlimited. You can do the practice anytime you want to do that. And all topologies, whatever, let me stop it for time being. All topology, like you can see the Panorama labs are also there, but we have the HA labs, Panorama labs, active passive, global protect, side-to-side VPN, content ID, web filtering, follow to tab mode, interface mode. A lot of things are there, so you guys can do the practice anytime. So I'll cover these all things step by step, and based on that, we can do that all labs. Okay, Binay?
Okay, okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone. See you in the class by Monday. Have a great weekend. Bye bye.